Shahmaran is a mythical creature with the upper half of a woman and the lower half of a snake, found in various Middle Eastern cultures, particularly those of Turkey's eastern Anatolian region. According to legend, she possessed magical abilities that eventually led to her betrayal and death at the hands of humans. The name Shahmaran comes from the Persian language and is a combination of the words Shah and Maran. It means king of snakes. However, since Shahmaran is said to be a female, translating her name to Queen of Snakes may be more appropriate. The Shahmaran legend is an ancient one, the origins of which have been obscured by the passage of time. The central story of Shahmaran revolves around a young man named Tahmasp. Tahmasp and his fellow woodcutters were in a forest collecting wood, when they came across a cave full of honey. After Tahmasp had collected the honey, the other woodcutters decided to leave him in the cave and return home. Tahmasp was devastated and was about to die, when he noticed a small hole in the wall. He dug a hole to pass through and emerged onto an open area, where he fell asleep due to exhaustion. Tahmasp had a terrifying awakening when he noticed a swarm of snakes all around him. He was terrified, closed his eyes and prepared to die, but when nothing happened, he mustered the courage to open his eyes. The snakes appeared to be watching him intently, and when he moved, they began to approach him. He was confronted by a stunning young woman named Shahmaran, who had the lower body of a snake. Shahmaran assures Tahmasp that her snakes are not ordinary snakes, but rather intelligent, compassionate, and peaceful ones. He is treated as a guest and told to rest, and they will talk again the next day. When he awoke the next morning, he found himself in a large hall with a table set up with food. Shahmaran invited him to breakfast, and began telling him stories about humanity's history. Tahmasp was drawn to Shahmaran's wisdom and kindness, and they eventually fell in love. He enjoyed his time with Shahmaran in her underground kingdom, but after some time wanted to return home. Shahmaran was reluctant to let him go, but eventually agreed. She warned him not to tell anyone about the subterranean realm before allowing him to leave, as he had taken on some of the snake's characteristics and should avoid public baths. He returned home after promising Shahmaran that he would heed her warnings. Tahmasp's life in the city seemed to be going very well, until word came that the king of the city had contracted a mysterious illness. The royal physicians concluded that the king could only be healed if he consumed Shahmaran's flesh. As a result, the king issued an order to find anyone in the city who knew anything about Shahmaran or had visited her kingdom. The king's physicians and advisor told the king that the only way to tell if someone had visited Shahmaran's realm was to pour water on their skin. This would cause the skin to become scaly, revealing that the person had visited the snake's underground kingdom. The king directed all of his subjects to report to the public baths and had his soldiers keep an eye on them, as they immersed themselves in the water. Tahmasp attempted to flee, but was apprehended by soldiers and taken to the baths, where he was thrown into the water, bound, and presented to the king. He initially refused to reveal where Shahmaran lived, but after the king tortured him, he revealed everything he wanted to know. Shahmaran was captured by the king's soldiers and brought to the palace, where she revealed a secret to the king and those around him. She told them that anyone who ate her tail would gain wisdom and long life, while those who ate her head would perish. She was killed and dismembered after delivering this final message. The king and advisor ate a piece of Shahmaran's tail, while Tahmasp ate her head instead. To everyone's surprise, the king and his advisor both died, but Tahmasp escaped unscathed. Soon after, Tahmasp left his home to wander the lands alone, gaining wisdom and becoming known as a wise man. Nonetheless, he regretted betraying Shahmaran until his death.